Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's GDG Dallas meetup. This is the meetup for August 2020, and I'm finding my controls. We've got a few organizers on the call tonight, but there's also a few of us. There's a couple that aren't. I'm this guy right here, Luke. And then you can see the rest of the organizers are here. This is your crew. If you ever have a question about GDG Dallas and would like to reach out, these are the people you should plan on reaching out to. And we can help you out, whether that's with presenting or finding one of the many links I will be sharing in the rest of the slides. Do want to mention our sponsor, if you can call that for the evening, BottleRocket, providing the Zoom. It allows us several hundred participants, so there's no risk of too many people joining, and we're not limited by any sort of time limit. So Diana is free to talk as long as she would like. This is going to be an important URL going forward for GDG Dallas. This is going to be kind of the one-stop shop of all the other links. Right now, this redirects to our meetup page, but going forward, we plan to build this out just a little bit more so that we can link to all the different areas. And let me talk about where we'd be linking to. So the official GDG site has moved from Meetup to this community.dev. It's based on Bevy, which is the Bevy platform, but it's something that Google has set up. And so our new kind of official website is gdg.community.dev/GDG Dallas. We will continue to use the Meetup site for a while. We've got a lot more users or members over through the Meetup organization, at least right now. We hope to slowly migrate people over to the official site, but we are not shutting down the Meetup site anytime soon. So if that's how you like to connect, at least for now, that's perfectly fine. We do have a Slack group, as you might expect, gdgdallas.slack.com. And we even have a Heroku app, but again, or a Heroku app for sending out invites, but feel free to reach out to any of the organizers if you'd like an invite, and we can try to, we'll send you one, not a problem whatsoever. We also have a YouTube page where this video will be posted later, and you can see some of the older videos and meetups that we've had from various presentations, whether they're from DevFest or in-person meetups or some of our Zoom meetups. As well, we also have a Twitter account, GDG Dallas, and Instagram we are planning to set up soon, but we do not have right at this time. And again, I'll mention the main URL, gdgdallas.com. That'll probably be where you want to head if you're like, I don't really remember what the links were, and like you can search those platforms, but we hope to have just kind of one-stop shop for all the links and staying connected there. And now it is the moment you have all been waiting for. I will shut up. And I'll be turning it over to, don't celebrate so hard, Stacy. That's really very happy about it. I will, okay, so I'll turn it over to Diana Rodriguez. She is a Python developer advocate at Vonage. She's a full stack developer and DevOps lover of all things web and cloud. She's a Google developer expert for web, cloud, maps, and Firebase, a Microsoft MVP and Auth0 Ambassador, and with 20 years of experience and a strong background in back-end and infrastructure, Diana likes to bring together the best of both worlds. She's super enthusiastic about everything to encourage people to start a career in development and a fan of female devs and DevOps. In her spare time, she likes to play video games and loves taekwondo. So I'll turn it over now to Diana. Take it away.
I thought my name was unforgettable. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. And yes, the title of my talk is Roadmap to an Open Source Artificial Pancreas and Diabetes Monitoring with Flask. And I can breathe. I like this hashtag, we are not waiting. And it's part of an initiative from the do-it-yourself diabetes community that I was introduced to a year ago when I got diagnosed. But I'll tell you more about it And first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Diana Rodriguez, and I'm all those things, including a developer advocate at Vonage, and I am the face of a Python SDK for the communication and video APIs, and it's really exciting. I'm also a GDG organizer, the newly created GDG Durham. My Twitter is Kotufa82, and I love talking to people, so please come say hi. And if you have any questions, I'm not the oracle, but I share the best of what I've learned throughout these years. So let's talk about diabetes. And I know you might be thinking, well, what does this have to do with Python or with anything or with development? What the heck, Diana? Why in bold letters? So I was diagnosed a year ago. My diabersary is going to be on the 5th of September. I was ready to go to Music City Tech to give a talk in Tennessee. And the day before the conference, there was also a hurricane coming to North Carolina. And I went to see the doctor because I went through a glass wall because I couldn't see it. I was chasing after my friend's kids who were playing hide and seek, and I didn't see a glass door. So much that I actually went through a big panel of glass, imagine. And because of many other symptoms I described, like, oh, suddenly my vision is so bad and I don't know what's going on, but I've lost a ton of weight and now I'm always hungry and thirsty and many other things. The doctor said at urgent care, he's like, we have an ambulance ready for you to go to the emergency room because it'd be good for you to get checked. I didn't know that my blood sugar was over 700 at the time and they were trying to keep me conscious so I didn't go into a diabetic coma. So getting a diagnosis was like in this picture. I felt that I broke into pieces. I felt like it was too much to handle. I didn't know what to do. And to give you an introduction, well, having diabetes is different. There are different types of diabetes. There's type 1. It's an autoimmune disease where your body stops producing insulin. There's type 2 diabetes where your body produces insulin but doesn't know what to do with it. And there are more types of diabetes like the one I have, which is type 1.5. It's the same autoimmune disease, but it's called LADA, latent autoimmune disease, autoimmune diabetes in adults. Type 3 for those people who lost their pancreas to surgery, and things like gestational diabetes, etc. They all have the same thing in common. We're not under control. It's a lot to take in, a lot of information, and there's a growing do-it-yourself diabetes community in the United States where we're all trying to, and in the world actually, we're all trying to find solutions to make our lives easier. And you might be wondering why, what's up with this? Why all this fuss? To give you an idea of the issues we face with having diabetes, this is just to show you the average out-of-pocket monthly diabetes cost back in March 2016, 4 years and a few months ago. Yeah, $360 per month 4 years ago. Right now, if I told you my average monthly cost is around $1,500 to $1,750 if I were to cover it out of pocket. Not only that, we face huge difficulties like running an automated process manually with very blurry guidelines. At the beginning, it's like, well, yeah, we know what like level should be, but how do we calculate how much insulin you need? And you start first with a sliding scale, and we have to learn things basic things for us and for everyone. Like when you eat food, you consume carbohydrates, among many other things. Those turn into glucose, and insulin regulates the right amount of glucose in the bloodstream. So for someone like me, that's not an automated process anymore, and I'm in control of that. And I have to make sure that my numbers stay around that range. But what happens? Carb ratios are different and can vary over time, and insulin needs are different. I feel like I need more insulin at night than in the morning, and I don't know why, and some other people need more insulin during the day. And then there's the issue of not knowing anything, not knowing everything, and never being under control. Even now, I feel like I'm not totally under control, and I can say someone like Scott Henselman, who's been a type 1 diabetic pretty much his whole life, can say the same thing. Because when a process that should be automatic is run by humans, it becomes an error-prone process. So if I give myself too much insulin, I can die because it causes dangerously low blood sugar levels. If I don't give myself enough insulin, then I can die because my levels are too high, and then that leads to like a really slow and painful dead. Not dead. Well, yeah, dead too. So I'm a programmer, a developer, I'm a tech person, I'm a community member, and what better motivation to use those talents for good? I not only have the motivation of using this for myself and for the community, but I also do it for her. This is my 6-year-old niece, Fernanda. Here in this picture, she's proudly showing us her insulin pump and her sensor. I can't even describe the feeling of seeing her crash while watching her because her levels were too low, and thank goodness I knew what to do. Seeing the peace of mind that she has because she has an insulin pump and she doesn't have to prick her fingers often 8 times a day or give herself multiple daily injections, not only for food but also for correction boluses, basal rates, etc. She now has automation in her pocket. And I wanted to make her process even better. I'm sure she doesn't understand as much as I do what a struggle it is because she doesn't know any better. But if I can make her life easier and other people's lives easier, I want to be part of this. And you can be part of it too. My alarm is ringing and I have to make sure that I am within levels. Yes, I am. Which is probably a little bit high. So how do we start this? Let's get more context. So the technology nowadays has turned into something really cool. There are plenty of insulin pumps delivering insulin automatically and sensors telling us what our levels are without the need of constant finger pricks in the market. So yeah, sensors solve the problem of having to prick my finger multiple times a day and reducing it to a few times sometimes to calibrate or to make sure that what we're seeing matches the symptoms. Sometimes, you know, machines fail. And pumps solve the problem of having to, give myself multiple daily injections. And I can control how much insulin to levels that are actually impossible with a regular insulin pen. But remember how I said we're never fully in control? The problem is that pumps and sensors don't speak the same language and they don't communicate between themselves effectively. How difficult is that? This is where using tech for good causes comes into play. This is where we can step up. Now, remember the hashtag I showed on my first slide? We are not waiting. Well, that's what happened. The community decided we weren't waiting anymore. They decided to put those words into action, and they solved 2 main problems. The first one, monitoring. So there is a dashboard for all of us. It's available. It's open source. It's called Nightscout, and it's a web-based continuous glucose monitor, which means it gives us glucose data in real time, and it comes with the perk of having values to be predicted 30 minutes ahead using an autoregressive second order model. That's amazing. The server reads a MongoDB containing data from my sensor, which is a Dexcom G6, but it's compatible with every sensor in the market. It has alarms for high and low values that you can specify. It's free open source, which is grand. And yeah, I know this sounds awesome. The logo looks amazing, but to give you more context, to know what the people from the Faulty Pancreas Club use for monitoring, you can head to Dionyx or superdi.dev if you want, and you can see my blood sugar levels in real time. If you choose not to go, because it's okay, it's up to you, it looks something like this. Numbers higher, numbers lower. So now we have the data from the sensor. I have it on my belly, but normally I wear it on the back of my arms. There we go, we have this data. Now, we still have to solve the problem, and this means that anyone can access this dashboard. And if they really want to check on me, if I'm starting to slur, if I'm acting a little bit weird, it's like, let's check Diana's levels. You can head to that dashboard and see it. Nothing's gonna happen. You can see how much insulin I have on board, what my basal rates are, and what my levels have been in the last 24 hours, if you want to see. And that's grand. The second problem that was already solved by the community, and this is like the biggest and most amazing thing that has happened in the history of using tech for good causes, is called OpenAPS, and that stands for Open Artificial Pancreas System. This is a very powerful system that emulates a pancreas, automating things like insulin delivery to keep our blood glucose levels within range at all times. So what this does is it communicates with the insulin pump to obtain all the details of like recent dosages, etc. And it communicates with the CGM or continuous glucose monitor to obtain current and recent blood glucose levels estimates. And it basically puts that information together and generates an array of estimates and suggestions for insulin dosing, and it issues commands to the pumps to do so automatically. There are two ways to implement this. We call it looping, and there's the open loop, and it basically, it's like what I have now. I have an Omnipod, so it basically suggests what levels of insulin I should be getting, and if there's anything going down too fast, it will actually suggest me to cancel my basal rate, which is like tiny micro boluses going on. I'm at 0.05 units per hour. My rates for basal are very low. I do more bolusing than basal. Bolusing as in covering for food, or if I'm too stressed, sometimes my blood sugars go high and I have to give myself insulin, but I'm not automating it completely at the moment. But I mean, the suggestions have been spot on, and if you check that dashboard I showed you before, my levels are often within the green lines, which means I am in range most of the time. This causes a lot of peace of mind for people because you can go to bed safely knowing that if anything happens, it will alert you and it will stop insulin delivery if necessary. Now there's the next step, which is called closed loop. It basically lets the magic algorithms do their magic, and it acts like a pancreas, basically. I'm not there yet because I'm training myself. I'm training this algorithm with my own data, but I have to tell you that in the, excuse me, almost 9 months I've been using this, all the suggestions have been spot on, and my doctor loves me because I keep myself within range, and I feel, although I'm not always in control, I have my days, I feel safe. And that's the most important thing. As of July 2020, there are a lot of people around the world with, oopsie, can you see this? Oh, you can't see this. This is interesting. Well, so there are a lot of people around the world with various types of do-it-yourself closed loop implementations that we know of. And this number continues to grow, as does the number of options for various types of do-it-yourself closed loops. And this is a quote from the OpenAPS website. So this means that those of us who use this system experience fewer highs, less severe lows, and more time in range. And the quality of life improvements associated with having a system that can auto-adjust those levels overnight while we sleep is priceless. When you first get diagnosed and you're working on that sliding scale, you're given sort of a random number based on your data, and basal can kill you. Basal is like a long-acting insulin, and for the first month I had to wake up. So if I went to bed at 10 and I gave myself basal at 9, I had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to check my levels to make sure I was okay. Sometimes I woke up before that being severely low, and it's like having a panic attack and feeling that you're dying. And it's actually true, because you're sort of dying. So I don't wish it to anyone. It was mentally too much for me. Anyway, so to recap everything, I have a sensor, I have my phone to check those values on my phone as well. I have a dashboard, and with that information and the predictions, I can make better bolusing decisions. What's my and your contribution? Okay, this is where Flask comes to play. So we'll see Flask in action. You can check the app. There's the URL for the app and the repository. It's Flask, Jinja2 for templates, Materialize CSS, and I'm using the Vonage communication APIs. Why Flask? I needed something quick, something I could share and have others develop on top or add features to or whatever. Flask was the right choice for me because of its friendly features, because of its freedom, because of the minimalism and the learning curve. The most important part of it was to make something that people could read regardless of their experience with development, and to make it friendlier than free stuff. So what's the problem I'm solving with this? So you know how the dashboard and any other app that I can use to monitor blood sugar with this sensor I'm wearing, they have alarms, but in moments of crisis, or namely when I'm sleeping, it's very difficult for me to hear them. But strangely, I can always hear my phone. So if I can make my phone ring to alert me of irregular values, this is interesting, because I mean, thank goodness I'm a developer advocate at Vonage, and I thought, well, great, because I work with communication APIs, so I can do this with Flask and I can use Vonage APIs. And this is not a sales presentation. It was a real use case for myself and my 6-year-old niece and anyone who can benefit from it. So how are we achieving this? Right, we have a range of values for low and high. Those are the standard numbers. In my case, I probably do low 80 to prevent going lower than that, so I can catch it. And I have a phone. So using the SMS and voice APIs from Vonage, I can notify myself and my emergency contacts of irregular situations with those levels. I can grab readings for the last 60 minutes or any given time frequency through a Python thread with a scheduler. And if ranges are below or higher than what is configured through environment variables, then it fires an alert. And there's also an alert if it doesn't get data from that Nightscout dashboard for a set period of time. And in this case, it should send a message to all emergency contacts saying that my Nightscout dashboard is offline. And then on top of that, I can add a second scheduler to obtain fresh data. And this is how I did it. Ta-da! It's a simple Flask app that allows me to log in and configure my Nightscout details. I needed to protect that data as much as possible. I mean, there's nothing extremely confidential. It's just a Reams endpoint. So I used Google Authentication from Firebase. And this is the dashboard. So in here, you can see that I can configure the entries endpoint. Excuse me. I got hiccups. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I can configure the entries endpoint to grab my blood glucose readings data, my phone number to receive a call if my levels are out of whack, an emergency contact, in this case, my mom, who will get notified if I don't pick up the phone. So the first thing that will happen is I'll get the call. It will read me my values and say, Diana, you're high. Your blood sugar levels are whatever, or you're low, or whatever, right? But if I don't pick up, it will read the same message to my mom. And I can add up to 5 additional emergency contacts who will be notified if either of them don't pick up. So if I don't pick up, my mom will get the call. If my mom doesn't pick up, then the next person, and so on. And if the dashboard is offline, they will all get notified through a text message. Let's have a quick run through on the technical details that make developing this app an enjoyable experience. And I will show you small bits of code because I have something for you. You'll see. First thing, for our views, Flask uses Jinja as a template engine, and it's straight HTML, CSS, and if you want, JavaScript. So I named it layout.html. This is a parent template defining content blocks used by children templates, and these blocks will display the code from whatever children templates I make. And this is in a template folder inside of a static folder. And something I like to show off from Flask and Jinja is the URL4 function that points to JavaScript and CSS in the static directory, which is a comfortable and elegant way to point to CSS libraries or to JavaScript. If not, I can actually not point it from static, but actually use a CDN, like the Vue.js, for example, if I wanted to, or fonts or anything, right? And here, you saw the login screen. This is an example of a child template. It will see, it extends layout.html, and this is how we can tell that it's that login inherits from layouts. And then the renderer will load layout with whatever variations we add to this file. And these variants will be defined within the blocks we set in the parent template. For example, in this case, I'm using the head block. And boom, there's my code. This is just an example. On the Python side, one of the things I love about Flask, and I think it's like the biggest sell point, is the route decorators. It allows me to organize the code in such a beautiful way. And here you can see that in this route decorator, I can specify the routes and the method if applicable, and then boom, write the logic. But if you want to see in detail a tutorial on how to build this application, just head to nextmo.dev/Nightscout, and I will tell you everything. This is a truly thorough tutorial. It covers deploying the application using different methods and providers. So please check it out. And what I have for you, and I left this like the same way I used it for EuroPython 2020 because of the URL. I wanted to keep it. I have a challenge for you. You can make a difference. I know that probably you don't have diabetes. You might know someone who has diabetes, or may want to chip in with something and contribute to the community and make a difference, this is when I encourage you to take on the Tech for Good challenge. Head to nextmo.dev/EuroPython 2020. It's the same thing, the same challenge. Obviously, I can't give you a Nintendo gift card or Open Collective gift cards, but I, as well as all the users of this application, will appreciate your contribution. And there are things that need to be worked on. Simple things, but very meaningful, like working on a design, adding an extra feature that you think could benefit us or could benefit the community in general. I don't know. There are so many ways to improve this application, and you can help. And if you need credits to test the Vonage APIs, I can give you €10, €10, sorry, of credits for you to test these APIs. And I tell you, €10 go a long way. A long way. I've had this app available, you know, as an open source app for people to test it, and the cost is literally pennies, you know, cents. So if you want to make a difference, take on the challenge, propose a feature. I'd love to see your PRs. We already had 2 PRs. One person submitted a PR to deploy this app to Heroku with an automatic button, you know, one of those deploy buttons. And another person who won the challenge at EuroPython suggested a feature to get the blood glucose levels, requesting them through a text message. And I thought that was amazing. If you want resources, oh, by the way, if you go through this URL, it's a README file that will point to the repository with the tutorial. I included it, but it's also documenting the endpoints that you may want to need, and you can use my own endpoints to test any features you want to add to this application. If you need resources, I encourage you to follow Sarah Withy on Twitter. She was the person who helped me get my Nightscout set up and who taught me a lot of things about OpenAPS. Scott Henselman, he was the person who heard me rant and cry a lot. Well, Stacy heard my rants too. She is such an amazing person. Never met someone so inspiring. Thank you, Stacy. You have no idea how much of a difference you've made in my life. This is the Nightscout dashboard website where you can check some more information than the OpenAPS website. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, you can go to my website too. And that's all I had to share with you today. Thank you very much. Get in touch on Twitter or my website, and that's the slides URL should you need access to them. And this is it. El fin. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, here I am.
Thank you so much, Diana. That's amazing. Very inspiring, and just, I don't know, it's just a little overwhelming to hear how much you took on that, you know, such a big problem, and have really made a difference. And I know it's a big community of, I think diabetes is a common issue. So hopefully things like this will really help a lot of people. Like the way you describe it seems like this is just amazing. So I do want to make sure we have a little bit of time if anybody has any questions. I guess I'll ask one of you. You kind of touched on this, but can you kind of, you talked about how it was so much work before you had this set up. And now that you've had it set up, I don't want to say like it's automated and like it's, but like how much has your quality of life like changed after doing all of this?
Oh my goodness, so much. Stacy can't even tell you about it. I was always complaining about not being in control, about not sleeping, because I would wake up in the middle of the night and be low, or have random lows at work, or just randomly passing out in the street. I actually remember we went to an event together in Austin, the Women Take Makers Summit, the North America Women Take Makers Summit, and we were roommates. And many times she saw me get back to the room with a can of Coke, and I always had sugar on me because I still hadn't figured out what my ratios were. And she also saw the insulin pens and the needles, and me giving myself insulin shots. And she was actually the person who said, hey, you know, you can actually add a smartwatch to track those things. You can automate this. You can check out what Scott Hanselman is doing. Why don't you get more involved with the DIY diabetes community? So yeah, my quality of life.
My baby is my presence right now. Just letting you.
I love him. My nephew.
I can hear you. I'm just cooking.
So I guess I have a question to follow that up then. So when Stacy shared this with you, that information, and, you know, suggested it to you, was this I mean, this feels like why didn't I think of that moment?
You know what? I was so overwhelmed with all the things I had to process that there was no room in my brain to even think about it. I had zero sleep, like little to no sleep. I was overwhelmed because I actually developed a fear of insulin because of how low I'd been, and many times I was in hospital because I overdosed, and I had almost like PTSD because of the idea of, okay, I can totally kill myself by accident, and I'm not in control. When am I going to be to the point where I'm actually not afraid of using insulin? Like, I swear, a lot of people saw me crying every time I had to give myself a correction bolus, you know? And now it's like, well, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? If I get low, I'll get an alarm and I will feel sick, but I'm surrounded of sugar and glucose tablets, and if I'm low, I'll just keep drinking orange juice and stuff like that. So basically, with the support of the community, things change. I felt understood. I felt encouraged to use this technology and to test it myself. And then after I saw the benefits, I felt the need to contribute. So that was pretty much the process.
Thank you for sharing. That's incredible.
Cheers.
Now, now that you've been working with it, like you mentioned adding features, if you had like just a magic wand to wave, what would be your top couple features that you'd like to add?
I would probably add a field to add different endpoints. So the endpoint that I have now is just the entries endpoint. There are things that can be added that can have where you can calculate averages, or you could probably request the prediction for the next 30 minutes or the next hour, or just, yeah, the design, for example, because I'm terrible with design. If the user interface could be improved, and maybe having a better dashboard, maybe handling the phone numbers in an easier way, maybe adding more people, or changing the priority, or even the message that is read, you know. I guess, sorry, I got carried away. Those are the features that I can think off the top of my head that would be grand to improve. But if anyone wants to jump in, I seriously am available. I can answer any questions. I can provide all the information. Although I think the README file is very well documented. Even if you find a way to deploy it in an easier way, or if you know how to make this a mobile app, or just things that make a difference. When we think of features, we think of things that can have a positive impact and can make the process easier for people who use these applications.
Any idea how many people have set this up for themselves or are using it?
I have 450 users right now on the open source version. So obviously the idea, this is obviously a demo, and I'll keep it alive as much as possible, but the idea is for people to have their own implementation of this application. So there's probably more people using it. But I actually have no way to track it.
Well, even if
Not
you know
yet.
that, yeah, even if you know that the 450 is like a kind of a minimum number of people that are using it, it's like I think about how many lives that's changed already. I mean, that's a huge impact. So thank you for doing that. That's just, it's just a little overwhelming, man.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to share this with all of you tonight. I was really excited. Every time I have the chance to talk about these things, it's grand. We never imagine how much of a positive impact we have on other people's lives just by putting our talents to use. And things that might not mean a lot to us, like the ability to put together a website or something, I don't know, I just think that sometimes we're not aware that we can do so much good just by doing the simple things we take for granted as developers, as people in the tech industry.
It's an inspiring message. And, I think it's one we'll all try to take to heart a little bit more. But
Cheers.
I want to say thank you again for joining us tonight. And this has just been amazing to hear about this work that you've been doing and how you've made it so accessible to other people. So, hopefully this won't be the last time that you speak with G2G Dallas. This is your second time, I guess, speaking first because you were at the Dev Fest a year or so ago. And so we will always look forward to having you back. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody who showed up tonight. We will, again, be posting this online if you would like to go back and review any of it. And I'll make sure to post the links as well that Diana shared. And so look for that in the next week or so. Thanks again for coming, everybody. And have a good night.